back, everybody, to the 2017 DreamHack Austin Hearthstone Grand Prix. My name's Cora Georgiou, and I'm joined on the desk by Nathan, that's Admirable, Zamora, and TJ Sanders. Do we even call you Osmo Cutie anymore, or is that just kind of in the past?
We don't talk about those.
We don't talk about those times?
Nope.
All right, fair enough. Fair enough indeed. Well, we're about to get into the 4th round of Swiss for this tournament. 9 rounds total will be played over today and tomorrow, and then we're going to be getting into the top 16, of course, for this weekend. So a lot to look forward to, but especially our next match coming up is going to be a doozy. It's one of your favorite players, actually, guys. It's going to be Chalky up against Trump. So what do you think about that?
Oh, yeah. The big sock Chalk going up against the big
Mayor of
the Mayor of Valuetown.
The big
Trumpo Storm.
The big rump Trump.
Yeah, I mean, he's new.
Sure.
You're just trying to make everything rhyme. Things are typically better when they rhyme. I will at least admit that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Definitely so.
Yeah.
Makes sense. We did see Chalky earlier on today. He did win the first streamed match of the day. We haven't seen Trump yet, but both of these players are 3-0. Strong lineups. Of course, Trump took a bit of a hiatus and recently has come back to competitive Hearthstone. So do you really expect him to be able to keep up with Chalky, who's been really on a hot streak for the last couple of years or so?
Trump's been going hard recently. Sort of a similar boat as Raynad, who both, once like new cards release or new expansions come out, they both sort of like try hard for a couple months, when they have time. And Trump's been floating up there at the top legend ranks. So, I'm expecting pretty big things. And we're starting to get to the point in the Swiss rounds where the undefeated players are really starting to set themselves apart. We're going into round 4, and what the pool of undefeated players are starting to get smaller and smaller.
Mm-hmm.
So as we go through, the next couple rounds and we start narrowing it down, we're really going to see who has the best lineup, who's on fire in day number 1. So, and these are the players that we have for this one.
And I think that's one of the big benefits that you see of Swiss. You'll have these long natural pauses between rounds because you have to actually finish all the rounds, repair the players, have them get seated, but you have a much more consistent time to actually show that you were more prepared for this tournament than the other competitors were. And that's really the big point of it. In a big open field like DreamHack, that edge grows more and more as well as you have local players and players who travel in versus professional players that this is what they do full time. And talking a little bit about Trump has always really been a strong player. When he started to step into the competitive scene for a long time, he was strictly an arena specialist, but 2015, he was at America's Championships. He was one of the top 8 performing players in the region. You look at all of his ladder finishes that he's had in the years that he's been competing. This guy's no slouch, and he's put up a lot of points during those HCT seasons.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And like you said, TJ, he's recently come back stronger than ever, I would have to say. And here we can go ahead and see Chalky and Trump. What are we making of these lineups? Actually, a Druid ban from Trump for Chalky. What do you guys think about that? TJ?
This is pretty interesting. Chalky, I think that Trump has pinpointed Chalky here on an aggressive Druid build, and you can tell, by the classes that Trump has. The one thing, though, is it would depend on what warrior Trump's bringing, because it's interesting to ban away Druid if you're bringing Quest Warrior, because, if you have Quest Warrior opponent as Druid, that's, pretty much the best counter that you could hope for that deck. So it's an interesting ban, especially with both Warrior and Paladin, 2 of the strongest decks in the format at the moment, in Chalky's lineups. Kind of weird.
I think it definitely looks a little bit strange to me as well. I'm a little bit curious about the Warrior getting through. I would assume Trump just assumes his Warrior's getting banned.
Yeah.
A lot of the times. And when it's not getting banned, probably the Paladin's getting banned. The Druid functions very well against the Paladin, however, typically. So that's probably a ban that's less in Chalky's mind, given that instance. So if he anticipates his Warrior getting banned, banning away Druid, I think is a great call in this spot.
It's definitely an interesting decision by Trump, but he's been doing very well so far. He's 3-0 currently in Swiss, Chalky as well. So he definitely has to have a plan going into this. And now I know you guys are both fans of the Chalk, but I have to ask, who are you favoring in this matchup? Admirable?
I mean, I got to go with Big Sock Chalk in this one. I think that he's always really well prepared. He's the defending champion here at the DreamHack Austin Grand Prix. I think his lineup is really set. And as I mentioned earlier, he's only one class off of his lineup from last year where he brought Priest and he brought Paladin to both of those. Now they look a lot stronger than they did at that time.
I think Big Sock Chalk's wearing his sock on his sleeve for this event, and I think he's going to take this one.
I don't even know what that means.
I'll have to head off and figure that out. But I have to say, I kind of figured you guys would be betting on Chalky here, but I'm not gonna count out Trump just yet. He absolutely is a strong contender for this match. So we are about to get underway with our 4th round of Swiss for the day. It's gonna be Chalky versus Trump, so make sure you guys don't go anywhere.
I don't want to bring it in.
We're back. My partner in crime. It's been a while, man, but it's time to cast some Hearthstone. The Chalk versus the Trump.
It's a big one.
It's a big one. This is a big one, and I was talking a little bit, before we went to the break after round 3, and I was saying, how I feel like Hunter is sort of a deck that a lot of players were sleeping on, especially if you look at sort of the rest of the field. There's a lot of players that are currently 3-0 that have Hunter in their lineup. Trump being one of them. It's left up in this one, so I expect great things from it.
I think it's definitely one of the decks that most players have seemed to underestimate. If you're looking to fight against Murlocs, I think Hunter's one of the best classes you can actually have to do that. You have minions that stick around. You have minions that create other minions on turn 1. You have that ultra-threatening, crackling Razor Maw on turn 2. That could be just a big payoff card in those little tiny minion battles. I certainly think it's poised to fight that matchup very well. As we get into game number 1 here, Trump's going to be on Mage, Chalky on Paladin. This guy's been leading Paladin. TJ, let me tell you what.
Let me tell you what. Yeah, I mean, Paladin's, it's quite obviously the strongest deck right now currently that players have built and come up with. So when you're talking about consistency, you open it up in round 1, it doesn't have too many terrible matchups. So I feel like it's a good deck to start off with because you're likely to get a win, maybe 2, maybe even 3.
If you can beat a matchup that is not favored for you as the Paladin, that is a really bad spot that your opponent's in all of a sudden. That deck has got some massive potential. But Trump opening up with Mage, this is a deck that's really interesting to me. It's got Alex Straza in it often. It's got Medivh often. A lot of Prix Mage-esque style tools. But really what it's trying to do is utilize an early curve to try to take the board position. Oftentimes, Freeze Mage it just loses in the face of overwhelming pressure if they don't have a Doomsayer. But Trump is putting these minions to work in overtime. They check the early board. They're trying to deliver damage and chip away at opposing life totals so that they become in those burn spell ranges. And for Chalky, that can often spell bad news. If he's not able to solidify the board early on, it's a spot where suddenly Trump's hitting this big curve of strong spells. He's going into Meteor range. He's going into Flame Strike, into Firelands Portal, those sorts of things. So Chalky, for all intents and purposes, has to be the aggressor in this matchup because the inevitability lies much more on Trump's side. Yeah,
you sort of have to capitalize on those weak spots of the Mage. There is, sort of a weak mid-game where if they don't have the right removal spells, pretty early on, I'm talking about turns 4 and turns 5, a lot of times you're talking about, like, if no early minion's stuck, Ice Block Ping, those types of things. So you really got to capitalize on that. And even though Chalky's losing the board early on, don't count the deck out because it can have some weird turns in the mid game where it just develops, a bunch of stuff. Whether it's like Biofin, Inquisitor, Hero Power, Gentle Megasaur, and all of a sudden you have like a board full of sticky Murlocs. Stuff like that can be, you sort of have a hidden power behind it. But Trump decides to leave up the Murloc, which is a little bit of a risk going into turn 3 with War Leader, and he's going to lose his Mana Worm because of it.
I certainly think it's interesting. I do like the Arcanologist play over the rest of what he had available, but I think bumping into the Hydrologist might have been something that you could pay close attention to. Now, if his plan is simply to just use the Frostbolt in the face of a War Leader and attack away, this plan worked out beautifully as well, but it did cost him a Mana Worm to get to this point as well, so just 2 for 2 cards on both sides.
It's kind of a janky Paladin deck from Chalky. He's got like a bunch of elements from mid-range and also the aggressive build. He runs Steward of Darkshire with both Murloc Tidehunter and the Biofin Tidehunter, but he also goes up the curve a little bit with the Paladin legendaries.
Curator.
Yeah, and Curator as well. It's just sort of like a hybrid. It's just sort of like a mishmash of Murlocs and friends.
If you think historically about the most powerful aggressive decks that have been out there, they oftentimes had the ability to simply scale into the late game. Look at the menace that Secret Paladin was for a long time. That deck was 2 Mysterious Challengers at 6. It had Dr. Boom at 7. It had Tyrion and Ragnaros at 8. There was a lot of top-end stuff in there. This deck is very reminiscent of that style of play, not quite at the same power level, but even a lot of the aggro shaman builds. Chalky, I remember practicing with him for Winter Championships. We started to tech in Dr. Boom into basically every deck list that we played because it was such a powerful high-end card. I'm talking even in like Aggro Shaman
Dr. Boom?
And Freeze Mage.
Yeah.
We were putting Dr. Boom in and seeing success with it. We ultimately chose not to play those decks, but you need top end if your deck is lacking giant burst potential. And that's really what this Paladin deck is seated around, is the lack of burst potential, but still very strong cards.
Hey, your board for the Murlocs gets cleared, boom, you slam Materia, and that's 15 damage you got at least with the Ashbringer over the next few turns. So it does give you that longevity.
It's like a John Madden style thing there. Oh, you know, you're slamming the Murlocs, boom, they get cleared by a Flame Strike, bam, land that Tyrion, that's 15 points of damage you're coming over the next couple turns there.
I wish I could just circle stuff on the board right now. Look at that, that's a volcano.
If only we were in the Bahamas.
If only.
We had the technology.
The Bahamas. There's the Steward of Darkshire coming down.
Yeah, and this is really one of the best uses of Steward of Darkshire here, is simply land it with Murloc Tide Hunter or the Bilefin Tidecaller. It's either way, you're getting a lot of value from that Steward of Darkshire, because his goal is simply to stick Murlocs on board and then get payoffs with Blessing of Kings, Spike Ridge Steed, Murloc War Leader, Gentle Megasaur. The whole deck is just one big synergy together with each other. It's very rare that you see a deck with quite this many interactions amongst its own cards.
Yeah, the Arcane Missiles from the Babbling Bug actually coming up surprisingly effective here. Able to probably peel off these Divine...
Oh my gosh!
Probably peel off some of this damage from the face.
That is a disastrous outcome for Trump.
Yeah.
That's about as bad as it gets.
Yikes.
Suddenly Trump's in a lot of trouble. It was looking like he's taking this board position very easily.
Oh, I forgot about the Steward of Darkshire still. Oh, it gets the Divine Shield to the Noble Sacrifice. That's incredible. I mean, that's incredible. These are those mid-game lulls that I was talking about for the Mage. A lot of times this point in the mid-game where they have like fireballs and secrets in their hand, you can capitalize because they don't have ways to fight for the board until they get to like those Meteor and Flame Strike ranges. A lot of times Meteor is not too effective against these Murloc Paladin boards where, you know, they sort of just have a bunch of idiots, you know?
Just a whole bunch of them.
Yeah.
This is an interesting turn here for Chalky as well, because it's going directly into a potential Flame Strike turn. Here he's going to go with Hydrologist and then follow up with Gentle Megasaur. I mean, he's got 4 Murlocs out. Now's the time to get that big payoff.
Well, let's see if what he can pick up from Gentle Megasaur.
If he does not see Trump have a big AoE spell next turn, this is quite disastrous.
Ooh, +3 health, stealth, or can't be targeted by spells or hero powers. This is sort of an awkward turn because the Rocky Carapace, the +3 health, doesn't put the well, actually, at least it puts the Hydrologist out of range of the Flame Strike, and with the Divine Shield, it's pretty resilient to that board. You know, he'd still have a minion left over to Spike Ridge Steed the following turn. But overall, I'd say this is a pretty menacing board. Now, Chalky also picks up the Eye for an Eye. Always got to be keen to mention that Eye for an Eye in a mage deck like this, sort of control-y, can be a trump card against Ice Block.
Laughing at your own jokes. That's a classic.
That wasn't me, that was you.
That's a classic, TJ.
Yeah, classic.
Yeah, it is a big deal in this matchup, though. Oftentimes, Trump will be looking to simply extend the game for another turn to unlock a lot of extra mana and simply just use burn spells to finish the opponent. If he's at 1, or sometimes higher than that, it doesn't really work. If Chalky's got Eye for an Eye out, that's just going to kill him through his turn. You know, Ice Block can't trigger on your own turn. So in a situation like that, Trump would quite literally have to heal himself in order to protect at that point, which we've seen that plan utilized. Alex Strauss being used strictly as a defensive tool, and you just squash all of the Paladin's pressure. In this game, though, I don't think Trump is going to have that liberty. Chalky has put together a pretty sizable board state. He's got a little bit of backup here.
Yeah.
And Trump just doesn't have the strongest tools in the book to really answer these.
Yeah, now Chalky spread the wealth on these minions with the Spike Ridge Steed on the middle Murloc, but this does play a little bit heavier into Meteor.
It actually does. Earlier, I was watching him position, and he was positioning deliberately for Meteor.
But Trump going to forego the Meteor, develop secrets this turn. This is going to be sort of one of those interim turns, a setup turn, to try and get Chalky to either extend more or play a little bit more into Meteor. But it's a pretty juicy Meteor to pass up on a 3-10.
It's also just back-to-back really weak draws from Chalky as well. He's picked up a couple of these 2-1s. You know, this is a lot of stuff on board, but this is not what he wants to be drawing at this stage. He wants to be hitting Curator, he wants to be hitting Tyrion, just more Spike Ridge Steeds, Blessing of Kings, anything that's going to deliver impactful stuff right away. These 2-1s, yeah.
But Chalky knows
decent.
He knows he's got the Eye for an Eye in the back of his pocket here. If he gets Trump down to 1 health at any point in this matchup, it is all but over. It is nearly impossible for Trump to win at that stage unless he I don't even know, discovers like a counterspell off of Cabal Courier and plays the counterspell right before Chalky's able to play Eye for an Eye. Something crazy like that.
It is definitely a long road to go for Trump to actually get control of and then also win this game. That 3-10 taunt.
Holy moly.
Wow.
Whoa.
I really like this.
Whoa, Trump going aggressive. So he's got a Primordial Glyph in his hand and a Fireball. So if he can pick up like a Pyroblast from that Primordial Glyph, or even just another burn spell, like second Fireball, or like another Fireball.
I mean, a Polymorph could connect for 8 sometimes.
Polymorph could have him connect for 8 as well. Yeah, that's also true. So he's giving himself options. This is what Trump has spotted to be his best chance to win. Keep in mind, though, he has used both of his Frost Bolts. So the burn left in his deck might be a little bit more limited, but I imagine he has a natural copy of Pyroblast somewhere in there and one additional Fireball. So it is possible, but at this stage, Chalky's going to pop the Ice Block at 1, develop that Eye for an Eye, and this is nearly a checkmate situation.
At this point, the Alexstrasza being used, I do think this actually is checkmate. I can't think of another way for Trump to actually be able to heal himself from this position. It would have to be an attack into Ice Barrier that leaves up at least 1 armor. That's not going to happen.
Is there a way you can get Flare from some crazy sequence of...
Is there any way to get a Yogg?
Can you...
I can't think of a way to get a Yogg.
Cabal Courier, Servant of Yogg-Saron, Flare.
I was thinking about that, and I also was thinking of Cabal Courier into Free from Amber, into Yogg-Saron, into some way to bounce the Yogg-Saron back to your hand. I like your way better.
Yeah, my way's a little bit better.
Well,
but Chalky takes game
Chalky's
number
way
1.
Is a little bit better too.
Yeah, Chalky, he's looking real strong early on in the Grand Prix here at DreamHack Austin. He's looking like he's on his way to securing a top 16. Imagine if Chalky won this event. Back-to-back events in Hearthstone, like specific events, is hard to do. I think one of the only players who's done it was Firebat with Gfinity. He won back-to-back Gfinities in 2015, the year after he won the World Championship.
And that was a partial invite event as well.
Yeah.
I mean, some players qualified for it, other players were invited to that event. To win back-to-back opens is just, I mean, that's incredible. There's so many players competing in the field, and just by the sheer nature of the numbers, it's difficult to often get through that field. Players consistently do it, and you'll see a lot of the same names in top 16s and top 32s and the like, but to actually get back-to-back wins would just be an astonishing feat at that point.
Yeah, but I mean, there's still a lot of Hearthstone left to be played.
Oh, yeah.
Even if Chalky wins this round, he goes to 4-0. In order to guarantee a spot in the top 16, you have to get to 8 wins. 7 wins doesn't even guarantee you a spot. There will be some players with 7 wins that don't make it through, I believe. So with Chalky's tiebreakers, he probably can sit pretty at 7, but I mean, he's still got a lot of work left to do today. Even if he makes it through Trump, he's going to be a tough opponent. Trump's going to throw out the Hunter for game number 2 to try and do well against this Paladin. We talked about this matchup a little bit when we were introing this match specifically, and Hunter's got game against Paladin.
I think it's got a lot of game against Paladin. Like, a lot of it. You have minions at every step of the curve. If you fall too far behind, you have Unleash the Hounds to back it up. If your opponent lets you get ahead, you have big payoffs with Crackling Razor Maw, sometimes with Animal Companion, and very often with Houndmaster.
Yeah. These, especially the more aggressive Paladin lists, a lot of times cut Aldor Peacekeeper, a lot of times cut Tyrion Lightlord, or Tyrion Light... that's a knee slapper right there.
It equips a random Ashbringer.
It equips a random
to one of your things.
Ragnaros Lightlord. That's what we were looking for there, Admirable. And they can't deal with things like Unleash the Hounds into a Scavenging Hyena. They can get real big, swing in, no healing to bring you back up, and all of a sudden you're looking at a lost game.
You hate to see that.
You hate to see that.
In this board position, it's not really going to slow down from either player. They both have fantastic opening hands. And in this kind of board state, these are the ones that are the most volatile. It's who is able to land their big payoff first.
Yeah. Now, a big question mark for, does Trump have this in his deck? Hungry Crab.
That has been a very popular choice amongst a lot of players for this tournament. And with the fact that Trump didn't ban Warrior and he didn't ban Paladin, tells me that's a very likely possibility. If you think about the first person who ever played Hungry Crab in competitive play, it was Trump. Trump used it at, a Seat Story event.
Is that against Artosis?
I think it was. And Murloc Warlock, and a very aggressive build from then, was one of the strongest decks that players knew about. And so he literally had Hungry Crab in 2014 to counter that deck.
History lesson with your friendly admiral, that's admirable.
Just nonstop. It's just nonstop.
Nutter butter, dude.
Nutter butter, agreed.
Ooh,
not
Divine
significant.
Shield taunt can't be targeted by spells or hero powers. Divine Shield, I think, has to be the choice here.
Trump was looking for any way to actually get additional damage out of this minion.
Sure.
You have poisonous, +1/+1, +3 attack. There's a lot of choices that work. But taunt here is interesting as well. I mean, that will force Chalky to actually go over the Kindly Grandmother at some point.
Yeah.
Rather than give him the option of when to do it.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point.
Now, the problem with that could be that Trump is falling a little bit behind on board, and maybe he doesn't want that to happen at the moment. He could very easily get Divine Shield here, try to stick something a little bit harder, look for either the second Crackling Razor Maw, or if he picks up a Houndmaster.
Yeah, but I don't think Trump is too unhappy with the current board state. He's trying to dodge Murloc War Leader here is one of the big things, but he has Crackling Razor Maw in hand, another one. He also has Unleash the Hound, so if the board goes wide, he has a chance to stabilize. And if he needs to deal with one specific minion, then he's got Crackling Razor Maw to try and pick up the poisonous or the +3 attack like you mentioned. So I don't think he's too unhappy. The one thing, is he has to keep the board under control. He has to make sure that the cards that he does have with Unleash and Crackling Razor Maw can keep the board under control and keep him sort of ahead. So that's going to be the big thing here. And lots of trades. I like this.
A lot of damage sunk into minions at this point.
Yeah.
Chalky just sunk 9 damage into 4 power.
Well, to be honest,
and 3 health.
To be honest, this matchup a lot of times does come down to the board. You're not going to really burst the hunter down like before they can burst you down. And the longer you keep these warlocks alive, the more chances you have to, get value off of the gentle Megasaur by trading how you want to instead of letting your opponent trade how they want to.
Yeah, I think a big factor of that is the Finja he has in hand. The fact that if he plays a value game, he will have time to use that card.
Yeah.
Is a big factor in his game plan. And Trump very much playing into that game plan here as well. I mean, he's just trading right back. And that's something that he's very much known for doing, is investing a lot into keeping the board position very clean. But right now, that looks like what Chalky's game plan is to keep that board position clean. I look at that state right there and wonder, is there any chance that Trump can take a risk versus Conk there and just hope that it doesn't exist on Chalky's side? 2 damage to all the minions that he would have, plus himself.
Good old Conka-crate. Hydrologist being played. Getaway Code of Redemption, Eye for an Eye. Eye for an Eye, not nearly as good in this matchup as it is against Mage.
Yeah.
Redemption and Getaway Kodo both serve sort of a similar purpose where you're trying to, have things stick around for a while. Getaway Kodo if you want more value in the long run. Redemption if you want to be able to stick on the board as long as possible. And Getaway Kodo is going to be the choice. Chalky understanding, how this game has gone. He's been playing for value, and he's going to continue to play for value with the Getaway Kodo picked up. He knows that in the long game, he should be able to take the victory with the cards he has in his hand. He's got Finja, and he's got Sunkeeper. So if he keeps the board clean, he's going to be able to win that value matchup.
I totally agree with that, too. The Kodo, I think, oftentimes is going to be aimed at landing on either Gentle Megasaur or at the Sunkeeper Tarim in a lot of these spots, but
it's the 3rd Crackling Razor Maw. We got a bunch of those. +3 health, summon 2 1/1 plants. Those are really the only 2 options worth talking about here.
Yeah, stealth not significant when you're yet to go into combat.
Yeah, and he's going to double up on this bad boy.
He's got to. I mean, he's yet to hit an actual buff from this card, so finally Trump finds some additional attack value immediately.
Yeah.
It's been a long time coming.
Yeah, +1/+1 and +3 attack, doing sort of the same thing here with the way that Trump wanted to trade. But finally, Trump looks like he's got a little bit of a board lead. How long it'll last? Time will tell, probably not that long. But one thing that Trump has in his deck and also now in his hand is Deadly Shot.
Yeah, this was the tech choice that I've wanted to talk about for quite a while.
Whispering for dramatic effect.
We've just had so much to talk about in the game so far. But Deadly Shot's one of the cards that can interact with Finja even the turn it hits play. You're looking at like Mass Dispel, AoE, Deadly Shot, Flare, and then Daring Reporter, which it's never going to get played, but The point that I'm getting at here is that there's a lot of stuff that Chalky has to think about. And rather than go for the Finja right now and say, hey, I'm going to threaten a bunch of value and try to take the board, he's just going for Gentle Megasaur right now and trying to get value out of what he has.
+1/+1. I
Wind
can't really
Fury.
see the state of the board right now, but yeah, he's going to go for Wind Fury. This is the best way to make the most efficient trades onto the board.
This also allows him to land Getaway Kodo into play for the Gentle Megasaur later on.
Not bad.
Oh, right after Unleash the Hounds, right after the full trade down. Wind Fury was a massive pickup off that Gentle Megasaur.
Yeah. This is actually an interesting choice here. Trump going with the Deadly Shot over the kill command here.
I'm guessing he thinks that Finja's not in hand.
Not in hand, or he's got to know that's in the deck. Chalky's played now one match on stream, and usually players, what's in their deck list gets around because players talk to their little practice pods and say, who's playing against this guy? Who's playing against this guy? And eventually figure it out. But there's the Finja, and Trump now wishing he had done that in the other order.
Well, we say that right now, but the one thing that Trump does have as a benefit of saving that kill command is now he's got more push potential. So say Chalky doesn't have a taunt minion in the next couple turns. That kill command suddenly becomes valuable damage.
Eagle Horn Bow pickup makes that an even shorter clock. And
yeah,
this Finja, it's not like the old Murloc Paladin or most Murloc decks where it's going to pull out like War Leaders and Bluegills to immediately challenge the board. This guy can pull out some idiots.
Yeah, there's plenty of idiots in here that it can fetch. There's a lot of weak Murlocs, so that they can ensure they land Rock Pool Hunter, ensure that they have gas every step of the way, make sure they have stuff for Cold Light Seer.
Yeah.
Like those idiots.
Those are idiots.
Yeah, you don't get the battle cries from him if Finja summons it, but Sunkeeper Terra is gonna do a little bit of work here with putting 3/7 taunt in the way and then buffing up those little idiots.
Not too bad. And now Trump, he's in some trouble because even if he manages to connect a couple hero powers to face, his only real outs you're looking at are like second kill command plus living for a few turns. Or maybe he's got like a Hunter's Mark in his deck and then another Unleash the Hound. So he can draw them back to back and then be able to land a bunch of those hounds to the face. It's starting to look a little bit grim for him, and Chalky all of a sudden has a ton of damage staring back at him. Gentle Megasaur in hand, which Trump knows because of the Getaway Kodo, which could get +3 attack. It could get Wind Fury. Both become very threatening to your health total.
Plus the golden Getaway Kodo made it a golden Gentle Megasaur.
Yeah.
It's extra threatening now.
Now he gets to keep the golden Megasaur. So Chalky with that golden epic just got himself a free epic.
That's a 1,600 dust value right there.
Yeah, I mean, we saw Odemian early on in his matchup. I mean, he got like $5 worth of packs in one game by opening those Elise packs.
Yeah, this is the Sunkeeper Terror was really the one that just made this game plan go all downhill for Trump. I think he had some semblance of possibility here prior to the Sunkeeper, and that just really started to seal things. I mean, Trump has a kindly grandmother in hand. Chalky is online with Tyrion.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. He go with Gentle Megasaur, but nope. Hop, 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 hop.
You just have great impressions of all these cards. All that work at Blizzard, you can see it's really going towards the right places.
It's paying off. You can see what I do in my work day. But Chalky takes a 2-0 lead over Trump.
And we've been talking about it all tournament long. The Murloc Paladin decks are right now the force to beat. They are just so strong in all of their angles of attack, and players are still discovering ways to put additional pressure in that deck. I think that the Steward of Darkshire is actually a really clever and strong call in this deck because of what it allows you to do with your early drops. Oftentimes, one of the biggest problems I've had playing Murloc Paladin is that I just don't have enough stuff early on to ensure that I get value.
Yeah.
Now with the Steward of Darkshire, you have more liberty to play those 2/1s that create the 1/1 because you get the Divine Shields when you draw that 2-card combination as well. And Steward of Darkshire oftentimes is a minion your opponent just wants to kill outright anyway. So it's 2 angles that you're shooting at the same time with that attack. A, you're getting more minions early on for Murloc buffs. B, you have a synergy with it later on in the game.
Yeah, and this is a great opening hand for Chalky in a mediocre, nope, a bad opening hand for Trump.
Well,
he needs a 1-drop Murloc stat. Nope.
That kind of counts as a 1-drop Murloc, but it does cost him the coin. And the coin is actually really vital in this matchup because both players are operating on the same game plan here. It's get a Murloc on board, it's buff the Murloc on board, get some value from it, overwhelm the opponent.
Yeah.
In this situation, when Trump has to coin early on, it means that he's not one step ahead of that power curve. He's not getting the first Tyrion. He's not able to land a first Primordial Drake in one of those big situations. He's now fighting on a very even footing here where Chalky immediately is going to take advantage of that.
Yeah, and the thing about going first with a good curve is that Murloc, the Tidecaller that he has on board with Rockpool Hunter, becomes a 3/3. A 1-mana 3/3 on turn 2, which challenges every Murloc that you can play on turn 1 or turn 2. Challenges Rockpool Hunter, challenges the Violent Inquisitor well, and it also challenges the Hydrologist, as we can see. And now Trump, he's
in a heap of trouble.
He is in heaps of trouble.
Yes, and Chalky also picked up a huge draw with that Murloc War Leader.
How huge was it, Admirable?
You can't see it, but my arms are fully extended out to the side at this moment. Anything Trump plays is just going to die.
Yeah. And Chalky just got the face of a stone-cold killer right now. Look at him. I would not want to stare across the table at Chalky when he's focused.
Oh, my.
That is frightening.
Well, it's also a hero power on turn 2 for Trump, and that's about the worst thing that can happen in this matchup. And Cold Light Seer. This is before the conk. This is before True Silver Champion. Murloc War Leader can come down, force extra damage, and then get them all buffed with the Cold Light Seer.
Cold Light Seer, we called you an idiot before, and we apologize.
I am issuing a formal apology right now on Twitter.
This is massive. He's going to be able to get the value from the Murloc War Leader immediately, and then next turn, if this board is not cleared, which it's not going to be, Admirable, spoiler alert.
TJ, that is a 1-cost minion that's dealing 6 damage.
Yeah, and next turn it's going to deal even more than 6 damage. It's going to deal 7 damage, Admirable. If he draws a 1-drop Murloc, it's going to deal 8 damage.
Now, Trump does assemble some bits of board here. So if Chalky decides he wants to keep fighting a value game here, which I think Cold Light Seer very much invites him to do, maybe there's a chance he comes back with double conk.
The double conk. It's real tough, though, man. Real tough. And with that Cold Light Seer, this one's going to be hard. Now, Chalky knows he knows that he has to trade in a way that plays around Consecration, play around the crate the most.
That did it.
And this does it. Trump throws out the well played. He looks like he's just going to scoop it up. Chalky, 3-0, moves on with a 4-0 score in round 4.
A lightning fast match with Murlocs. They can get so much pressure going. I mean, you may have laughed at them at one point and said, ha, Murlocs, who's going to do anything with these bad boys?
Yeah.
Well, the professional players, that's who's going to do stuff with these bad. I just didn't have anything clever to say.
Chuck is like, let me just upload these screenshots real quick. These have some meme potential. I'm going to post these on Twitter later.
Trump just trounced by the Murlocs.
Yeah.
It's just like I remember them being. Horrible, terrible hordes of minions that come at you from all angles, and suddenly you have no hope whatsoever.
Yeah. And Trump, he's 3-1 now, which is, it's not terrible. He's still got a great chance of making it top 16 if he keeps on winning. And welcome back, Cora.
Hey, guys. How's it going?
Hey,
as I'm not so obviously trying to get my lanyard off of me because I forgot to take it off before I put my headset on. That was quite a series.
Yes, it was. What do you say about that? It was just a stomp.
Wait, it's over?
There's not another one?
Oh. Whew.
Oh, seriously, TJ?
Yeah.
That's it.
Chalky, man, just looking dominant. Yeah.
Where does he fit all these cards in the deck? That's what I want to know. There's Tyrion in here. There's Spike Ridge Steed. There's Consecration. There's True Silver Champion. There's like 80 different Murlocs. There's Finja in there. He's got Steward of Darkshire. He's got all the 2/1s. Like, is this just like a 43-card deck he's playing with?
I was talking to Dart earlier, who lost to Chalky in round 1, and he was like, what in the world is that deck? He's like, Chalky has 50 cards. He's got 50 cards.
Chalky cheated.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, yeah.
He's got like, all of his cards are like, all of his cards are one-ofs. Except the Steward of Darkshire. That's a 2-of.
And it just curved out perfectly.
It's my Reno Murloc.
Oh my goodness. Well, I mean, it was kind of a stomp. So
Ooh,
we're
look at
gonna
that.
be seeing yet another exciting match. This is going to be Ostkaka, our former world champion, up against Crane, the reigning Trinity Series champion.
Yep, alongside Mr. Yagut and Super JJ.
Super yay.
From Team Complexity there.
Yep.
Crane has just been a fantastic player throughout his career. I feel like Crane has really not gotten the credit this guy deserves as being a strong player. I think Trinity Series was really a breakout performance from him, but he was one of the original pilots of Grim Patron Warrior that played it at that super high level you need in order to win from the most dire situations. This guy could spot the craziest of circumstances, calculating all the different draws and all the different outcomes, and it was a force to be reckoned with. I mean, this guy did not lose very often when he's on that deck.
He's been a popular player for so long now, but never really had a chance to shine in the limelight, and this could definitely be one of those chances. Ostkaka is a formidable opponent, but Crane is fantastic as well. So I'm going to go ahead and leave you guys to this one.
Oh, Pirate Warrior, man.
Well, I'm looking at the...
Pirate Warrior.
I'm looking at the equality in the Wild Pyromance and the Kodo in Ostkaka's deck. This is good old-fashioned control paladin.
Yeah, I'm looking at the 4 health. And yeah, that's all I'm looking at. He's in a little bit of trouble. It's turn 7.
Oh, I did not see that 4 health part. Yeah, he's in trouble.
The 4 health is something that you really got to pay attention to sometimes when you're playing Hearthstone.
Yeah, well.
And he is dead.
Yeah,
Ostkaka is dead. You hate to see that.
One more weapon. Just use me. Shut up, Fiery Warax. You don't even kill him this turn.
Yeah, so right away we jump into this matchup, and Crane takes a 1-0 lead. I believe in the series, I think the score is correct. We saw their decks earlier, and there was some that were like redded out, but I think it's 0-0.
Yeah, we'll get an official update as quickly as we can. And that's part of the cool thing about Swiss as well, is that when one of the matches is done, there's plenty of other matches going on around the tournament, and there's so many to choose from that we're trying to make sure that we highlight enough players to make sure to give everyone some good camera time and those performing big, the big storylines developing and such. But you're talking over 200 competitors in this event. It's drawn professionals from worldwide. As we're early on in 2017, the race for points is still a very real thing for a lot of competitors.
Yeah, and with this major, a win at a major in the 2017 Hearthstone Championship Tour season nets you 15 points, which is almost enough by itself to qualify for a championship in playoff. Sorry, in Americas this season, the cutoff will probably be around 19 points. So with just 15 points from a major win, and then 3 times hitting legend, that's 3 additional points. You're basically qualified just from that. You don't even need opens. You don't even need ladders. So it's a huge deal for a lot of these professional players, and that's why you see more.
And I was wondering why Ostkaka.
And he's got bounces.
I was wondering why Ostkaka queued up Quest Rogue into Pirate Warrior, because that's traditionally thought of to be one of the worst matches.
One of the worst matches
for Quest Rogue.
Crane's got to know that something's up, though, too, right? If he sees that Ostkaka purposefully queued Quest Rogue, he's got to be like, well, this thing's got to be teched, right?
I would assume so. I mean, that's certainly what would be on the forefront of my mind, is to be like, what on earth is he doing? This guy's nuts.
Looks like pirates are back on the menu, boys.
Is that what Galactic Crawler sounds like?
No, that's the orc from Lord of the Rings with a southern accent, because we're in Texas.
I gotcha.
Got me?
Festive. Wait, so where does the crab come in that situation?
I don't know.
Is he just a diner?
Nothing I say makes sense, Admirable. You know that.
Amen, brother.
Amen to that, brother.
The Wisps in here, I think, is one of the cooler additions to the Quest Rogue deck that I've seen. Oftentimes, Quest Rogue, it can flounder around a little bit if you don't have the right draws for it. Its mana constraints are very high, as it's tough to play more than 2 minions in the same turn. With Wisp, though, you have this wonderful acceleration process to your quest. If your goal is simply to complete it as quickly as possible in a matchup like Pirate Warrior, you don't need a lot of value. You don't need to be doing great, big, elaborate things. You simply need to get 5/5s as quickly as possible and start racing your opponent. Not only is the Galactic Crawler here to disrupt the early game from Crane in these spots, but it also helps accelerate towards that quest point. He has Youthful Brewmaster and he has Gadgets and Ferryman. You're looking at turn 5 quest being online.
Now, is Crane going to kill this Galactic Crawler with this Heroic Strike? That's the big question.
I don't think he should. He's got a lot of damage.
All right.
Yeah.
Hits him in the dome.
So if you look at it this way, he's got 4 damage from Core Crown Elite. He's got 3 more from the Fiery War Axe at that point. That will put Ostkaka down to 11.
Yeah.
He's then got Arcanite Reaper, which will hit for 5 immediately. That'll put Ostkaka to 6. He's then got Naga Corsair with the Arcanite Reaper, which will deliver the final 6 points of damage. Yeah. Crane, this turn, counted how long it's going to take to kill Ostkaka in the face of 0 disruption.
Yeah. So he's not worried about the bounce because he knows that even if once that Naga Corsair comes down, it doesn't matter. He's playing it strictly to buff the weapon at that point to give him that 1 extra point of damage that he needs. and he doesn't care whether or not that Galactic Crawler gets additional value for being bounced back to the hand. So
yeah, he's very much in a race scenario at this point. He doesn't need minions to stick to the board and deal damage. Doesn't need to protect himself. And now let's just stick another cherry on top of that one. We have some overkill, boys.
Yeah. In a race, indeed. And even though Crane's not known for his speed, this deck's got some legs.
Yeah. Crane does, too. He likes to wear shorts a lot.
He does, yeah.
I remember at Trinity, he was like,
we got a good glimpse of Crane's legs.
Why do you want me to wear pants? And I was like, I kind of don't, but...
He's like, I'm not going to come to California and wear pants.
Amen. I'm not wearing pants right now. That's a lie. It's not a lie. They're comfortable jeans.
But yeah, if Crane's plan was correct, we should see a Cork on Elite and then a hit to the face here. He needs, what, 3 more turns?
Well, the Heroic Strike does give him a possible deviation, the fact that he still has the same kill potential, but he can protect himself at this point. Picking up the Heroic Strike means
Getting an armor up.
Exactly. Or he can use the Cork on Elite to simply trade off one of the minions here and use the Fiery War Axe, follow up with the Arcanite Reaper, follow up with the Heroic Strike. But this is also kind of simulating that effect. I mean, this 5-4 will often pull attention from Ostkaka in this spot. You know, maybe Ostkaka falls into a trap here, uses a Gadgets and Ferryman to bounce the Galactic Crawler, and that delays his quest. You know, that's another potential here, is that Crane is now creating room for Ostkaka to actually misplay.
Yeah, he's also creating disruption. He's kind of like, here's my Naga Corsair. Don't you want to bounce that crab and ruin your quest?
Yeah.
I like this play.
It's good. It leaves room for Ostkaka to make a mistake. It creates a very similar circumstance to what the Cork on Elite did this turn. He's actually getting better mana utilization this way, and he's presenting a threat immediately, which can delay Ostkaka.
Yeah, I like it. And now Crane has a 2-turn lethal set up with the damage he has in his hand, and Ostkaka, I don't know if he runs Biolfin Tidehunter, but...
Well, he doesn't run Biolfin Tidehunter, but he does run a lot of minions on board right now. He's actually putting all of the 1/1s on board immediately, so that way he can play quest next turn and then just swing in. He's actually starting to race Crane back in this situation.
So now Crane is dead next turn if he doesn't find a way to clear off multiple minions, and that's a big deal. Even if he armor ups, he's dead.
Look at this.
Whoa.
And Ostkaka doesn't have anything to worry about. He's already seen a Heroic Strike. He knows that all of the rest of the 4 damage effects in the deck cost more mana. Even the only combination that kills him here is Fiery War Axe, Upgrade, and Heroic Strike.
He's mathematically dead. I don't think there's any way that he can live.
I lied to you. That's actually 13 damage that I just rattled off in that sequence.
And Crane chooses death. And Ostkaka goes into a tough matchup and takes the win. Galactic Crawler doing some work. Not only, I mean, we talk about how it kills the Pirates, but it's also just a 3-4 that keeps getting in there for damage because Pirate Warriors aren't going to trade very often.
I did not spot the idea of just simply playing all your minions on board and saying, oh, get them on now so that way I can attack with them. That's one of the benefits of playing Wisp in that deck, and that's also one of the big benefits of that practice and mapping out that game plan. Ostkaka knew right away that he was supposed to simply play all of those minions and then play the quest and attack at the same turn. You don't have to charge your opponent down. You don't have to do anything fancy, just a lot of minions and then one big buff.
Yeah.
Service is Bloodlust in that game.
Yeah, even better. Better than Bloodlust. It's like 4 attack on all those minions.
He didn't even need to cast it.
Yeah. All right, well, these guys are playing at a blistering pace, already knowing what deck they're going to queue up. Crane goes ahead and plays the Hunter into the Quest Rogue. This is another pretty good matchup. A lot of times Hunter can get on the board early, start pushing damage, and be a little bit of aggressive and sort of ignore the minions against the Rogue to pressure them before they can get the quest off. Now, there is some vulnerabilities to that plan, and we're looking at one of them is that if Hunters don't hit the curve, they fall behind very quickly.
That's a very welcome draw.
It's not the best 2-drop, but it is a 2-drop, and it's going to force Ostkaka to deal with it. It's going to force Ostkaka from not just like drawing cards or developing like a free daggers, you know, things like that. It's starting to get that damage piling in.
Prior to that 2-drop, Ostkaka was free to do anything he wanted in this particular game. At this point now, he has to start paying heed to the board in some shape or another. And that's a catalyst to the rest of what Crane is doing. If Ostkaka was free to set up the board how he wanted this turn, Animal Companion and Eaglehorn Bow instead become responses to that game plan rather than right now, those are going to be catalysts to his future opportunities. Ostkaka's having to fight back immediately.
Yeah, and Ostkaka's going to use the coin to clear this off right away. A couple benefits to this. One, he gets the patches out of his deck quickly, which means that, you know, if he plays this Mimic Pod, it's not going to pick up double patches. It's going to pick up maybe something a little bit more impactful in the matchup.
It's like a gang up.
Yeah. Also, it just, you know, takes damage off the board. because if you don't kill that and all of a sudden you find yourself in a situation where you have 2 must-kill targets on the board, Scavenging Hyena being one of them, it's a little bit tougher.
Well, this spot is pretty interesting to me here for Ostkaka. I mean, he does have wildly different options to go with. Southsea Deckhand is losing a little bit of value in this situation if he plays it, because that would be his second copy of that. So then it being a catalyst to quest is no longer an option at that point. If he elects to take damage, that's right into Crane's game plan, is just to deliver so much damage that Ostkaka simply does not have the time to kill him afterwards. The other thing he can do is play Stone Tusk Boar and double trade into this, but that's pulling multiple threats off the board. It's throwing away a card for future potential damage. You know, it's looking like an okay play because he's got Galaka Crawler to add alongside it, but Ostkaka's very much considering just taking that 4 damage.
Yeah, I mean, he realizes if he picks up a bounce effect, this Southsea Deckhand might be his best chance of getting in the quest. And Crane, you can see him like sort of smiling and shaking his head. He had a very poor draws early on. Let's talk about the Spellbreaker for a minute, though. We saw that picked up last turn. You think this is a nod to Quest Warriors and trying to push in some finishing damage? What do you think this Spellbreaker's most put in this Hunter deck from Crane? I think
a lot of it just has to do with that it's a fairly flexible card at the moment. There's a lot of strong targets to hit. As you mentioned with Taunt Warrior and the like, it can be very impactful in the mirror match when they're relying on a single Death Rattle minion to be able to generate that strong value in the mid game. I think it's also a big nod to the fact that Paladin has been such a big performer that maybe if you silence a Murloc Warleader with this card, or silence off a big Spike Ridge Steed or something of that nature, it's just a card that can provide you an immense amount of value. It'll be played over Ironbeak Owl because Ironbeak Owl is only a 2/1. Paying 1 extra mana.
For 1 mana less,
it's a
2/1.
You're paying 1 extra mana for +2/+2 to that body. Now, it's not a beast, but there's plenty of beasts in this deck already.
Yeah.
I think Spellbreaker is an interesting tech choice. I'm not entirely sold on it just yet, but it definitely serves a purpose.
Yeah, Spike Ridge Steed is actually, that's a good point, because that card can wreck Hunters.
Oh, it does.
Because they have to get through it the old-fashioned way. Even Deadly Shot's not like a great way to deal with that, because you're still left with a 2/6, which a lot of times is enough disruption to let the Paladin sort of swarm the board and get back to you. But right away, Ostkaka in a little bit of a tough spot here. He's not really on his way to finishing the quest, but he does realize that with the Igneous Elemental, he's going to have a lot of flexibility. Because all of a sudden, if he picks up a Firefly, then he's like 1 Flame Elemental away from finishing the quest. With a Vanish as well, you can Igneous Elemental when it dies, play your Fireflies, and then vanish them back to your hand and replay them. And boom, that's all you need. He doesn't need any more bounce effects after that. He has enough resources to finish the quest in his hand now. He just takes a lot of mana to do so.
Yeah, his main goal is simply protecting himself.
Yeah.
For as long as he can to find that big power spike and get that giant payoff he needs. In the meantime, Crane, his hand is starting to spell itself out. You know, how strong does he really want to play a Nesting Rock into this board? And speaking of the Igneous Elementals, Spellbreaker is right there to take that potential away. I mean, this could greatly delay Ostkaka's quest potential.
Yeah, now one thing to note is, you know, Crane, with this Igneous Elemental on the board and Ostkaka trading off all of his minions last turn, Crane can look at this and say, maybe Ostkaka's relying on the Igneous Elemental to complete his quest.
Yeah.
So if I just equip this Eaglehorn Bow and start going face, I'm going to push more damage. I'm going to push the same amount of damage that he is every turn. But I should be able to win that race. Crane does have lethal over 4 turns. Now, it doesn't seem like a great plan, but I think it's just time to go face. He's got 5 damage on the next 4 turns and a kill command on that 4th turn along with the dagger hit plus the hero power, which is 23 damage.
That's a really good point you make. And I talked about Crane seeing a lot of iterations and ways to get there. Glacial Shard.
Glacial Shard.
And 2 brews picked up.
Oh, that is.
Those
are like the best
massive.
possible pickups. Because Glacial Shard, I mean, that's Crane's gameplay now. It's no secret. It's out in the open now. So
it's attack with weapons.
It's attack with weapons and try and bring your health total down to 0. Ostkaka looks like he might be getting some work done with this quest rogue. He's on his way to the caverns below. Whatever that means.
He's still got some work to go. I mean, Crane has plenty of gas to back this up. But it's fairly slow. It's a little bit clunky.
Yeah.
That Glacial Shard could very well be the difference in winning and losing this game for Ostkaka.
Best pickup for Crane next turn is going to be Alley Cat.
Just freeze Crane turn after turn after turn after turn.
Yeah.
He's considering playing it right now. There is some risk to that, and namely Unleash the Hounds, I think, is the big one coming to mind for him. That would give Crane a little bit more race potential and at the same time would kill off this Glacial Shard. But he's feeling desperate at this point. He's playing the Glacial Shard now. He's like, you know what, not only do I need the damage, but I need to start shutting off damage as well. And, you know, if this ends up working here, he gets a big payoff from taking this risk.
Yeah. Another interesting choice from Crane that we've actually seen quite a few times now in mid-range Hunter is the Firefly. I believe Nick Chipper was one of the players that's been playing around a lot with it, with the Firefly in that one slot. It is just resilient. It allows you to start getting chip damage in. You can play sort of a swarm style. You know, one drops are actually really powerful right now because there's not too many strong one drops in the game. But the ones that are there can just blow you out if you don't have one drops of your own.
Yeah.
So
a lot of times they're just Murlocs too in that capacity.
the Vilephan Inquisitor is a 1/3. That's powerful.
It's the one you don't operate that strong against. But Firefly makes a lot of sense when you're playing Nesting Rock as well to give you those 2 minions for 1 card. But another Glacial Shard drawn. And that is quest completing potential, and it's also continue to freeze Crane out of the game potential.
Yeah.
I didn't think Freeze Rogue was a thing I was going to see today, TJ.
Freeze Rogue. That's right, Admirable. And Ostkaka does have all the resources that he needs to finish this quest. He's got 2 Glacial Shards in hand, and then 1 bounce with the Youthful Brewmaster would be 4 total for Glacial Shards. And this is one of the best minions to bounce against Hunter because a lot of times they rely on like counting damage when they get to a certain point for lethal. And this can really mess up their calculations. And also, like, a lot of times when you get to this stage in the game, they're playing, like, one big dude. And by freezing that one big dude, you essentially just secure a win. So
that little 2-1's pretty darn good.
Yeah. Ostkaka's going to be able to finish the quest next turn with this big board, bringing all these up to a 5/5. So I think this game's, you know, just about wrapped up.
Yeah.
He's at 3 out of 4 for that quest now. So that one last Glacial Shard in his hand, plus the quest, got plenty of mana to do it. Should wrap things up.
And Crane looking at this board, is just like, where does he begin to recover? His attacks have been completely shut off. Kill command onto a Glacial Shard is not a real opportunity. He could just die to the natural damage that's occurring. And none of his minions make board impact this turn. He's been frozen out of the game.
Yeah, he can get value off Nesting Rock here.
Not much of it.
But that's it. The quest will still kill him. Even if he lands that Nesting Rock, because 2 minions will trade in.
Yeah.
And then he'll still have 3 5/5s left on the board.
Crane is very conveniently at 16 in this spot, which is 3 attacks and then a dagger.
Yeah.
After Crystal Core is played.
Yeah, I don't really see a way out for... No, there's no way out for Crane, I don't think. He's going to try and think of any possible way that he can. Ostkaka, he doesn't know that Ostkaka has that last Glacial Shard because Ostkaka has been bouncing back the same one with Youthful Brewmasters. So he may not know that Ostkaka has either another bounce effect or the last Glacial Shard. And it doesn't really matter which one he freezes here because he's got lethal on board.
Yeah, and he's actually unlikely to show the backstep here as well, just due to the nature of last hero standing. He's going to have to pilot the deck again. Why give Crane additional information?
He journeyed to the center of the cavern and plucked the Crystal Core out from the rock piece below. Finds the victory, Admirable.
Are you making fun of me right now? You know I love to say that stuff. I love to role play.
Yeah, no, I learned it from you.
Thanks. I think.
You're welcome. Well, yeah, Ostkaka takes the 2-1 lead in the series. Quest Rogue doing work for him. Can he go for a 3rd win with the deck?
You got to look at Crane's position and go, what the heck's going on? I just lost a Quest Rogue with Pirate Warrior. I just lost a Quest Rogue with Hunter. This is the deck I queued up into it to beat that deck. And he really has been blown out of the last 2 games. So
Yeah.
Ostkaka had the wonderful turn going wide on board very early on to set up for Crystal Core. And then in this game, he just froze him out of the game.
What in the world is this?
This is not a good matchup for Crane. This is a really tough matchup. I have played a lot of Elemental Shaman. And one of the reasons I have stopped playing Elemental Shaman is my inability to actually beat Quest Rogue with it.
Fair point.
I think I've lost almost every single game against Quest Rogue I've played. Ostkaka's game plan very linear. It's draw a couple extra cards, continue to return them and play them turn after turn. Don't take any risks and let important minions, get stormed away in any situation. For Crane, his goal is to operate up the curve. It's every step of the way.
Oh boy.
Continue to get a bigger threat, until eventually the elemental power just completely outscales your opponent. Against Quest Rogue, you don't have that sort of time.
2 bounce effects already picked up, Admirable. We have Shadow Step and the Gadgets and Ferryman. Ostkaka is looking like he's in a pretty good position now. Those bounce effects plus just early utility minions are great. Now, are we going to see a Shadow Step here? No.
Wow. I'm a little bit surprised by that, but I'm guessing Mimic Pod is the reason that you're seeing that deviation. If he draws any significant minion from Mimic Pod, that gives him the gas to fuel through it. If he picks up a second Shadow Step from it, gives him gas to fuel the quest. If he picks up any bounce spell from it, gives him gas to fuel the quest. If he happens to draw a second Mimic Pod, well, now he's got 2 more Mimic Pods to try that with. It's pretty much just the way to get this done. I still am a little bit surprised he didn't Shadow Step his Novice Engineer, but I've talked to a few players on the floor about how this deck has been operating and what they've been having trouble with. And in some of the matchups, they've been talking about the importance of saving Shadow Step to simply deliver burst damage at the end. Shaman is great at stabilizing at fairly low life totals, and then piecing together all the value necessary to keep your board at bay. In this situation, it looks like Ostkaka's thinking about that right away and trying to set up a very similar position to that, where he can simply save his Shadow Steps and completely kill Crane in one turn, rather than just try to complete the quest super quickly and then maybe get blown out by a few AoE spells.
Yeah, I agree with you there, but Novice Engineer feels like one of those cards that will just help you do that anyway. You Shadow Step it back, and then boom, you're closer to another Shadow Step.
I'm not going to disagree with you. I would have Shadow Stepped it, but...
I'm not going to disagree with you either.
Good.
We don't disagree with each other.
Handshake.
Gentlemen's handshake. There you go.
Gentlemen.
Gentlemen.
And this kind of really showing where Crane's mindset is at as well. He needs to get some damage on board to not only start contesting what Ostkaka's doing, but also to start chipping away at Ostkaka's life total. This deck is not going to have the greatest amount of burst potential in the world. Oftentimes, you'll see it simply be Blazecaller and maybe a Bloodlust.
Yeah.
But he's got to start somewhere.
Now, there's a couple of things to note that Rogue can sort of run out of resources here a little bit. You know, once they get to those very late stages of the game, Shamans can buy a lot of time. You know, they got spot removal, Blazecaller, Jade Lightning with spell power, Hex. There might be a Devolve in here somewhere. Lightning Storm plus Maelstrom Portal with spell power on the board can also clear a board full of 5/5. So even once you complete the quest, you're not out of the woods yet as the Rogue player, because Shaman's still got some ways to stabilize and run you out of resources. So Ostkaka's got to have that in the back of his head, but at the moment, he's just looking for the most efficient way to get that quest done and then go from there.
Yeah, and you're starting to see the payoff of the elemental prerequisite that's set for Crane. The Servant of Kalamos here acting as Azure Drake, which has since been retired, but that Fire Elemental would give him a giant play on turn 6, and then Blazecaller gives him a giant play on turn 7. Now, the thing to think about is he's got a lot of tools in between there. He's got Jade Lightning, he's got Hex and Manatide, he's got Tar Creeper to protect himself. Does he want to just simply be playing on curve the entire time? I'm looking at Tar Creeper and thinking that could serve a very specific purpose. But here, the value of a 6/5 body is just so much when he's rolling into Blazecaller as well that he's now starting to pile up that damage. Ostkaka did not get this going quickly enough.
Crane's not out of the woods yet, though. He's got that value, got that damage, but he's still in the woods.
And Ostkaka has brilliantly recognized that this is exactly what's going on here. He's just buying himself time.
He's going to complete the quest
with these freeze effects.
Yeah. Shadow Step's going to come out, and now he's got the quest done. Now it's about protecting his board, not overextending into some of this AoE, and preserving these 5/5s. That's what it's going to be about. And Crane just scoops it up and concedes. He doesn't want to see any more of this quest, Rogue. Ostkaka takes the series.
That honestly, it looks like a super early concede in that spot, but what he's looking at is if Ostkaka's been holding that Shadow Step the entire time and playing it right then, he's assuming it's likely he has preparation in that spot. Like this was what I think this is a little bit fast. I think you're looking at a very similar result as this game goes on. There's just not an effective way to defend against Quest from his hand position there. But I do think it was a bit of an early concede. I still think I would have liked to see him, wait for preparation in that spot. Maybe you draw Lightning Storm, you can clear the board.
Yeah.
Have some sort of recovery potential. But
yeah,
I can't blame him for giving up in that spot when he has almost zero potential to actually deliver damage from there.
Hey guys.
Hey.
How's it going?
Good.
Had a good couple of series there. Two quick ones. I'm not gonna lie. That last one really shows you why you bring Quest Rogue, and
or why you ban
pretty much
Quest Rogue.
Yeah, just.
Hey.
Oh, I'm feeling ganged up on. No, I mean that's literally just the reason why you bring Quest Rogue instead of Miracle Rogue, because of the potential to just blow out your opponent that way. There's just nothing that Crane could have done.
I mean, the big thing to consider there is how close the damage race was for Crane in game number 2 with Pirate Warrior.
Yeah.
Galaka Crawler quite literally made the difference in Ostkaka being able to race Crane in that situation and not. He's teched in a card that he specifically expects to face against a lot of times in a matchup that is otherwise pretty dreadful for him. And that was a big payoff that he got. And even in some of the Quest Rogue mirrors, that Galaka Crawler can play the difference in that chip damage and allow you to have that extra opportunity to kill your opponent. I think it's a brilliant call for this tournament.
Or even the race, the potential race that would have happened in the Hunter matchup if the Glacier Shard didn't come out. You know, so these are big things. Ostkaka queued Rogue into Pirate Warrior.
It's a bold call, Cotton.
Bold call, but you can tell that, you know, when you have a specific tech plan in mind, it looked like he did run double Galaka Crawler. We've seen players in the past targeting Paladin in the past, like last week. Past
20 minutes ago.
Yeah, 30 minutes ago. Like out in the
Playing
parking
Hungry
lot.
TJ and I were playing a game as we were casting real quick. I saw him target my Paladin a couple times.
With Hungry Crab in Quest Rogue. You Hungry Crab, you keep bouncing the Hungry Crab. It's something we saw at the collegiate finals as well that happened. And so these types of things, you know, they might become more popular because if you can find a specific tech card in Quest Rogue that counters, you know, decks that you expect to see a lot of, you're bouncing that buddy back.
I mean, it really is
GG.
it's just amazing to me that you can put in just 2 copies of one tech card and completely turn around your worst matchup in the game.
Now, if you don't draw it, on the other hand,
That's true.
It's
You run that risk.
it doesn't change the way the deck works at the end of the day.
It is pretty hard for that particular tech card to not be super powerful, though. It can kill a 5/4 and be a 3/4. That is insane for 2 mana.
It can kill a 9/9. Lucky Do Buccaneer.
Lucky do bucket. I don't even know what that does.
You have a weapon with 3 attack or higher.
Yeah, I was jamming it in Pirate Rogue day
The
1
9/9.
of Mean Streets of Gadgetzan.
Pirate Rogue?
Pirate Rogue.
Rogue.
It's a rogue card.
Rogue with pirates more than just Swashbuckler.
Yeah.
I don't know what this card does.
Lucky.
It's a 6 mana 5/5. If you have a weapon with 3 or more attack, gain +4/+4. It's like Draconid Crusher.
That is awful.
Yeah, it's really bad.
Yeah, in Galactic,
Not a
Well,
good
I think
card.
it's bad. I mean, maybe you prep Deadly Poison and play it. That's a 9/9 for 6.
Galactic Crawler does not discriminate
bad.
against size
That's true.
or health.
He's very
It's true.
inclusive of even the bad cards like Lucky Do Buccaneer. It's, good for him. But more often than not, he's killing, Bloodsail Cultist, the occasional Naga Corsair.
I can't believe I didn't know a card named Lucky Do Buccaneer wasn't a card.
You don't play enough Arena, Nathan.
That is
You gotta-
enough is subjective, I think, in that area. You know,
Enough to know Lucky Do Buccaneer.
I will draft the deck and then I will just go. I'm just gonna retire this. I want my pack. Yeah, I think I have the highest rate of retired
Man.
arenas in the world.
Lucky Do Buccaneer, more like Lucky Don't Buccaneer.
Buccaneer.
Thanks, guy on Reddit.
Seriously?
That was a tough one.
Forgot his name.
Oh, man.
I'm so sorry.
Guy on Reddit came in hot
Lucky Do
right
Buccaneer.
there.
Yeah, forgot.
His name was Lucky Do Buccaneer. Yeah.
his Reddit name
It was just
Lucky Do
Guy on
Buccaneer.
Reddit.
Yeah,
Guy on Reddit.
yeah.
Well, that was the round 4 of the Swiss. We're going to be getting into round 5 pretty soon. Is there anything that's really surprised you guys that you've seen thus far? Any crazy decks or really just surprising tech choices?
I haven't seen any crazy decks. I think the thing that was most surprising to me thus far was the adaptation of where Murloc Paladin has gone. It started out as a fairly slow deck that wanted to simply get one big payoff with Giant Megasaur, or Gentle Megasaur, I'm sorry, and then have your top end to stave everything off. Instead, I'm seeing people focus purely on that early game, get that major power spike with Murloc Warleader, and then hope that the rest of your guys are enough to get the job done, which, frankly, if you can't underestimate overwhelming stupidity and overwhelming numbers. Enough dumb fish will get it done.
Well said.
Yeah,
TJ.
what he said.
Enough dumb fish
He summed
will
up like
get it done.
my whole life right there.
Yeah.
I'm having a little bit of a
Existential crisis.
Yeah.
Well,
You're a fish.
TJ's gonna figure out his life, and Admirable's gonna go play some Murloc Paladin with a lot of early game, and we're gonna get ready for.
Just walking
She's
off.
gone. She's
He's
gone.
like, I don't-
TJ,
I'm
hug an
lost.
inflatable dinosaur. It's gonna be okay. We've got 4 more rounds of Swiss to go over this weekend. We're gonna be playing up until round 6 today, I believe. So plenty more Swiss to get underway, and this is really the time where the big dogs are separating themselves out of the pack. We're gonna be going, best records going into the next round is gonna be 4-0, and at that point, you're setting yourself up for potentially making top 16. TJ, you just like being in every shot.
You can't help it. That's Rabbit Merble.
I'm not even here.
Oh, there you are.
Yeah, you're literally
On
right
him again.
there.
That's rabbit merble.
Yeah.
There you go.
That's where it starts to go downhill. That particular segment of things in front of
Yeah.
Marble.
Yeah, but I'm looking forward to round 5.
Same.
Yeah, it's gonna be a good one. All right, we're gonna be back with more of the DreamHack Austin 2017 Hearthstone Grand Prix going into round number 5. So there will be a short break as we set up for this next Swiss round. Better for the players overall, but we do have to unfortunately wait until every game is finished before we can get this next round underway. So don't go anywhere, guys. More Hearthstone action right after this.